my kitchen. Thanks so much for joining me today, and a very happy Christmas to you all. It's getting exciting now, isn't it? Not long till Santa comes. Anyone know how many more sleeps? You got to shout really loud now so I can hear you. How many more sleeps? Anyone got it? Yeah, that's right, James. Well done. You're such a clever boy. Well done. And I hear loads of other people shouting out really loud as well. Lots of right answers. So yeah. Anyone know what we need to make for Santa when he comes? What does Santa like to eat? Christmas Eve, what do we want to leave out for him? Shout really loud, really loud. Yeah, cookies, that's right. Well done, Cara. Good job. Yeah, so we gotta make some cookies for Santa. So that's really important. And he probably won't want to drink hot cocoa, even though he loves it. But we might like to drink hot cocoa Christmas Eve, mightn't we? So I think we're going to make some hot cocoa stirrers as well, which would be really cool. And yeah, so let's have a look at the ingredients. Let's go and have a look at what we need. So here in my bowl I have about 200 grams of Belgian chocolate. So there's a mix of dark and milk chocolate in this. It's purely because my kids like the mix of dark and milk. So there's about 3/4 milk chocolate to 1/4 dark. Next up then we have our marshmallows. So these are the mini marshmallows that you can get in any supermarket. They're really useful because they actually act as a support as well for your stick when you stick it into the chocolate pot. So it's important to have something for stability. So you could also use like little bits of chocolate if you don't like marshmallows, but the marshmallows are quite nice. Anyway. Next up then we have our toppings. So I have just taken a broken candy cane that we all get in every box and nobody wants to eat, and crushed it up, and I'll just pop that on the top of the little cocoa pot when it's finished. I've also just got some mint chocolate Aero. You can use whatever you want. You could use grated orange peel if you wanted to. You could use some chocolate fudge bits. Some Smarties, whatever you want, just go for it. Next up then we have our sticks. So I've got some candy canes and that's what I'm going to use today. What I've actually done is, and I'll just show you here now, I've taken my scissors, okay, and just literally snipped the candy cane wrapper like that, just around in a circle, and popped off this part of it, okay. So it just means that I've still got the covering on the top of the candy cane that I'll be handling, but the part that goes into the pot won't have plastic on it. When you're about to serve them, then you just pop off your plastic covering. Obviously, if you don't have a candy cane, absolutely fine. You can use an ice cream stick if you want, or if you have, you can buy these lollipop sticks, or if you don't have any of that, just a little teaspoon that fits inside. Just make sure it fits inside your pot, and you can just have that sitting in the middle of it. Okay, next up then I am using some little petit filet pots. I've taken the wrapper off them. Obviously you don't have to, I've just done that for, I don't know, they look a little bit prettier maybe. And what you need to do then is just grease your petit filet pots with a little bit of sunflower oil. Now make sure that it's, if you don't have sunflower oil, that it's an oil that doesn't have a strong flavour from it. So not an olive oil, don't use olive oil. Or anything with a really strong flavour, but sunflower oil works well, or vegetable oil as well. So anything like that. You just need a little bit of tissue paper, kitchen paper, and you are going to just grease your pots with that. So I'll just show you quickly. Just dip your kitchen paper into the oil, give it a little grease. Okay. So you can be doing this while I'm doing it. Get prepared, because these are really quick to make. That's the great thing about them. Right, so there we have our pots already greased up and ready to go. So first thing we're going to do is melt our chocolate. Now the really important thing about melting chocolate is you have got to melt this slow. Okay, if you melt the chocolate too fast, it'll just be really difficult for it to set, and it'll never kind of set nice and hard. Now we're not tempering the chocolate here, but we are kind of getting as close as we can to it, I guess. So by bringing it up to a nice gentle heat, it'll just mean that your chocolate is going to set much better, much faster, and yeah, it's the way to go. If you don't have a microwave, Okay, don't worry, you can just get a saucepan. We're going to use the bain-marie method here, so if you're not familiar with it, put a little bit of water in the bottom of your saucepan, okay? Make sure that the water in the saucepan doesn't tip the bottom of the bowl, and you're just going to put that on a gentle heat and melt that over your stove top, so that works perfect too. If you're using the microwave method, which I'm going to just use today, you're going to put it into the microwave and you are going to put it on 30-second bursts, okay? So your normal microwave setting, you're going to put it in at 30 seconds first, you're going to stop, give it a little stir, probably won't have done much within 30 seconds, put it back in for another 30, you're going to see a little bit more action happening here, and you might need to do that a few more times, okay, until it melts fully. But you'll notice that your chocolate isn't overly hot, and you don't want it overly hot, you just want it melted, okay? So let's get going, okay? First 30 seconds in the microwave, the bowl is slightly warm, but not a lot has happened. Let's go. Second 30 seconds in the microwave, and we're starting to see some action happening. Let's pop it back in. Third 30 seconds, and we're going to give it a really good stir this time, because it might feel like it's not ready to go, but you would be surprised at what a good stir will do. And I'm actually going to put it in for maybe 20 seconds for my last blast, because I think it's going to be enough for it once you give it a nice good stir here. And this will mean that you're not going to overheat the chocolate as well by making sure you're really stirred up. You can see it's really melting itself as I stir it, so it's still working off the heat of the bowl. Now, yeah, I think 15 seconds should do that. Okay, and our chocolate is done. Give it a good stir up. A few little lumps still left, but they're going to melt away. Okay, and we're good to go. So, I'm going to move that out of the way. We're going to take our little pot. I'm going to just pour some chocolate in like that. Okay, so about a teaspoon of chocolate. I'm going to get some marshmallows, pop those right in. And at this stage we're going to take our, I'm going to take my candy cane. Okay, I'm going to hold it in the middle. You can use maybe a smaller spoon, might be better than this big spoon that I'm using, but this is what I have, so don't worry about the mess around the edges. Okay, that'll all come off when you're when you pop this out of the mold, so that's fine. Okay, I'm putting loads of marshmallows in this here. And more chocolate. There we go. Now you can see the marshmallows are my little aid to keep the candy cane in place. Okay, without them my candy cane would flop to one side. So for this guy here, I'm going to just scatter a little bit of broken candy cane. Oh, and a little bit of arrow's gone in there as well, that's okay. You can do whatever you want. Okay. So, pop that to one side. And we repeat. Depends on how many you have to do. So, this is really let the kids go crazy. This is all about them getting creative today, so might be good practice as well to lay down some parchment paper because of the chocolate, but look, usually even with the parchment paper it tends to just stick on the worktop, so a good knife will scrape it off quickly once it's dry. So more marshmallows all around the sides. Okay. Nice and messy. Straighten this guy up a little bit. There we go. And we'll pop a little bit of crushed pushed arrow on this one. Let me know as we're going along what people are adding to their hot chocolates. What chocolate you've decided to use. You can post in the comments, and if anyone has got any questions, post those into the comments as well, and I will respond as we're going along as well. So we'll make it as interactive as possible. You know, don't be afraid to ask a question if you have one. I'm here to help. And yeah. And look, you can't go wrong really with this. Got your mold. If you don't, as well, if you don't have little yogurt pots, that's totally fine. You might have some bun cases and maybe some bun cupcake trays or something. You can pop your bun cases into them, and then you'll be able to stick your. Might be a little bit more difficult maybe to get your spoon in or your candy cane in. But if you build it up with enough marshmallows, you should be fine. You know, or just look around the kitchen, see what you have. It's all about repurposing things, coming up with ideas of how you can use other things to make other things, or to achieve what you want to achieve, I guess. Now, so I'm going there on my chocolate, so you can see I had just about, I think, 200 grams in that bowl, and that's given me enough for 4. Okay, so at this stage you'll probably realise that you're glad, if you're using the candy canes, that you didn't snip off the plastic off the top of it, because your hands will be quite sticky, and yeah, so would your candy cane, so it's just a little bit more hygienic, I guess, as well. Now I'm going to pop those in the fridge. They shouldn't take too long to set. Often they could be set in 20 minutes, but we're going to get cracking on our cookies now, so they will have loads and loads of time to set for later on, when you're going to sit down, enjoy your hot cocoa stick with your homemade cookies, and hopefully a nice Christmas movie maybe. So let's pop those in the fridge. Okay, so now we're going to make our cookies. So let's have a look at the ingredients that we need. Hopefully everyone's got them weighed out and ready to go, and that'll speed things up for you all. Okay, so I have my mixer here ready to go. If you don't have a mixer, you can do this by hand, but you need to do it with softened butter, and then that means you're going to have to put your cookies into the freezer for a couple of hours before you actually bake them, otherwise you'll have too much spread. If you have a hand mixer or a stand mixer like I have, then that's the way to go if you can at all. So I have, first of all, my butter cubed. It's just come out of the fridge, so it's really, really cold, and I'm going to pop that right into my mixer. It is 225 grams of butter, or 8 ounces, so hopefully that's what you have. Okay, next I have the same equal amounts of sugar to butter, so 225 grams of caster sugar, or 8 ounces of caster sugar. That goes into the mixer as well. And you are going to mix those up together for about 2 minutes until it's nice and creamy. So let's get going. You might want to give it a little straight down halfway through. Pop it back off for another minute, and we just want to crack our egg into a bowl. It's just a medium-sized free-range egg that I'm using, and we are going to add 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract. So vanilla extract is much better quality than vanilla essence. It's a lot more expensive, but you get what you pay for. So I'm using 1.5 teaspoons. Just be really careful with it because it is quite expensive. You don't want to spill it all over the place. Okay, I'm just adding the vanilla extract to my egg. You may already have this done. Just give it a quick beat up like this. At this stage then you can do the next part by hand if you want. or you can do it on your mixer. So I'm just going to show you now what your butter and sugar should look like when it's creamed. Okay, so our sugar and butter fully creamed there. I'll scrape it down again. It's quite hard, so you might need an adult to do this. Or big muscles, one or the other. If you've got big muscles, then you'll be fine. Okay, scrape that down. Then we will pop your egg and vanilla mix in on top of it. Now you can do this by hand if you want. I'm going to give it a quick mix in the mixer again. Now you only need like maybe 20 seconds of a mix just so it's fully incorporated. I scraper again. So that's perfect. Our egg is nicely mixed into the butter and the sugar. That's what we want. Then in this bowl I have 385 grams of sieved flour, along with 2 level teaspoons of baking powder, and that was sieved into the flour as well. So at this stage you're just going to pop that into your mixture. Now I'm going to put this on the mix again. You can do this by hand because if you want, because you don't want to over activate the flour either. It's not good to over mix your flour. It just can affect the gluten. So let's pop this in. So you just need a really quick mix up, and this should come together nice and fast for you. We want, so it's not fully incorporated. Just get your scraper again, scrape down the sides, make sure it's all nice and mixed up, and then take your hand, you're going to scoop it all around. You want to really work quickly now with this, so don't overwork your pastry. You don't want it getting too hot. So we're going to just lightly flour our work surface here. I'm going to pop this out. It's not all together. That's absolutely fine. Just gives me a little bit more space to knead it here. And it'll come together really quickly, I promise you. Okay, so just gather it up like this. It's not too sticky and it's not too dry. That's what you want. Okay. Get it into a bowl really quickly. Right, what I'm going to do now, I'm not going to overwork the pastry or the cookie dough, but I'm going to just half it, right? I'm going to leave one half to one side. I'm going to pop this half back in, and what I'm going to do with this half is I'm actually just going to add some chocolate chips to it, because I want to make some chocolate chip cookies and I want to freeze this batch. So I'm just going to show you how. I'm going to show you 2 ways of freezing, okay? One is going to have chocolate chip cookies and it's going to be the roll method, and the other we will actually do the shapes, and you can freeze the pre-cut shapes and then just pop them onto your tray. Probably put about half a cup of chocolate chips in there. If you don't have the chips, just break up some chocolate. Whatever you have around, you can add some Smarties if you want, whatever works for you. You can leave them plain. You could add some orange zest or some lemon zest. You know, just, yeah, whatever you fancy. Some nuts, if you like nuts. I'm hoping that you'll all let me know all these great combinations and flavors that you've come up with, because it's always good to learn. So all my chocolate chips there. So this is extra chocolate chippy, which is good, isn't it? You have to have extra chocolate chips for Christmas. Okay, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to roll it. Okay, now I'm just going to make, you could divide this into two if you wanted to, because it's quite long. That's what I might do. Now, a bit more flour. I hope everyone's cookie dough is coming together well, that it's not too sticky or too dry. Don't over flour your surface, whatever you do. You know, you don't want to add too much flour. It'll get be a bit dry when they come out of the oven, so you don't want that. Okay, so big long sausage, and I just cut it there. Right, what we do, so you can see it's quite skinny. Okay, so you're going to put that, I'm going to show you how to wrap it and put it into the freezer, have it freezer ready. And then when you take it out of the freezer about 10 minutes before you want to bake it, 5 even, you know, if you've got a sharp knife. And then you're just going to slice it, right? And just slice it like that. So you want to just maybe, I don't know, a couple of centimeters. And depending on how thick you slice it, that'll define the size of your cookies. Okay, because the thicker they are, the more they'll spread on the tray. If you want skinny or smaller cookies, just cut them that little bit smaller. So it's kind of trial and error, see what you like yourself. Okay, so that's one ready. This is the second one ready to go. So you want to get a strip of parchment paper. Take your cookie dough, place it in the middle, wrap your parchment paper around your cookie dough, grab the ends, scrunch it up like a Christmas cracker. Okay, and to make sure there's no air in between the cookie and the parchment paper. Put those around, and then I'll get a little bit of cling film. Okay, I'm going to just make sure it's fully sealed with the cling film. So, as I said, when you want to make, say, Christmas Eve, you want to make some fresh cookies, just take it out and out of the freezer while you're preheating your oven. They will have kind of started to soften a little bit. Cut your slices, pop them onto a pre-lined cookie tray and straight into the oven for 8 to 10 minutes, and you will have freshly baked cookies, which will be mess-free, I promise, and yummy. So you need a rolling pin and you need some cookie cutters. I have some nice cookie cutters here. I have a nice Christmas tree, I have a little snowman, a little heart, gingerbread man, star. I also have a circular cookie cutter and just a piping nozzle that I'm going to use to cut out a hole in the center of that. But if you don't have fancy cookie cutters, look around your kitchen. There's lots of things that you can use. So I have a little tumbler here, so you can use that to cut out your cookie shape in a circle. This is just a cap of a bottle. You could maybe use that as to cut out the centerpiece of that cookie if you wanted to do that. But there's lots and lots of things that, you know, look around your kitchen. You don't need fancy cookie cutters. Anything will work. In fact, if you want to just roll them into a bowl and just pat them in your hand, that's perfect too. Whatever works for you. Don't go rushing out buying fancy cookie cutters because you don't need them. So if you have them, of course, use them and enjoy them, but there's absolutely no need to buy new ones if you don't have them. Okay, so rolling out my dough, so if it gets a little bit sticky like this has got, just put a little bit of flour on your rolling pin. Again, as I said, don't overdo the flouring. So you're going to roll it quite thin, okay? Don't have it too thick because you don't want it spreading too much in the oven. I'm going to start with a cookie cutter. Always start on the outside of your pastry and work in. It just means you have to roll it less. And when you're working with pastry or cookie dough, you really want the least amount of rolls that you make, the better. Okay, so that should pop up for me. So there's my first, you can see my first little cookie. So it's the Christmas tree, and you can see the thickness of it there. And I'm going to pop that onto my pre-lined tray. You're going to really want to space these out, okay? So I might just fit about 5 or 6 cookies on this, and that's okay. You need a few trays, or you know, you don't have to cook them all in the one go. We'll do Christmas star. Okay, then we'll do maybe a heart. Got to do a gingerbread man, even though it's not gingerbread cookie dough. Then I want to do a nice circle. I like these ones. I'll put a circle in the middle. Okay, and I want to do our snowman. Now you got to be really careful, so sometimes it's handy to have a little knife maybe beside you to lift up your cookies. Yeah. Because you don't want them to break. Gingerbread men and little intricate shapes can be harder to get up sometimes. So it's striking the balance between not over flouring your surface and not under flouring it either. What we're going to do is we're going to pop these into the freezer just like this. You don't have to cover them because we're only putting them in for about 5 minutes. Pop these into the freezer, and while you're doing that, just preheat your oven to 180 degrees. So depending on how many cookies you want to make for tonight, you can make another batch, or you might just want to use what's left. You might think, okay, I've got enough in the 6 cookies I've made. I'm going to actually just make another batch and have them in the freezer for around Christmas. So this stage we've got chocolate chip logs, cookie logs that we've made, and they're in the freezer, so they're ready to pop out whenever you want them. And then we have the option of cooking up the rest of this cookie dough, or of cutting them into shapes, into more shapes, popping them into the freezer for about a half an hour just to firm up nicely. And then once they're nice and frozen, you can then just layer them up in like a little freezer safe box, or in a little freezer bag, or whatever works for you. And that means you're going to have your pre-cut cookies ready to just dish out onto a baking tray and cook them. You don't have any cutting to do when you want to use them. So maybe you might want to use them Christmas morning or Christmas Eve. They're ready to go. So as I said, start from the side. Okay, so this stage, you know what to do. Okay, so I've taken my cookies out of the freezer. It's time to pop them into the oven now. Just make sure that they're evenly spread out, that they have enough room to, they will grow ever so slightly, not too much. Just make sure that they're nice and flat and that they have enough room to spread a little bit. Okay? Okay, so our cookies are out of the oven. As you can see, they're nice and golden brown around the edges, and not too brown in the middle. So we're going to leave them on the cookie tray to cool for about 5 minutes. If you take them off now, they'll fall apart, okay, but within a couple of minutes they're going to firm up nicely. And then they'll be ready to ice. Okay, so while our cookies are cooling, we're going to make up some icing sugar in the bowl. You don't want it too runny or too thick, so you want this type of consistency. So it's just your icing sugar mixed with a little bit of boiling water, and that's what you get. So I haven't really measured it out. I think I've probably used maybe a quarter of a bag, if even, but it depends on how many cookies you want to ice. Okay, so that's what you're looking for. I'm going to just pop a little bit of the icing sugar onto my plate, my shallow plate like that. Okay, it just makes it easier to work on. You don't have to do it this way. I'm just going to pop on some gloves. Okay, and I'm starting with white because I want to do the snowman first. So I'm going to just get my little snowman and just pop him in. So I'm just going to shake just to get it to disperse around the cookie so it's even and not thick in one place and thin in the other. Okay, turn it upside down so it's not going to fall off. Okay, I have a little air bubble in it, so I have a little tool. If you have a skewer or something, you can just pop. Some air bubbles, you can just pop them. There you go. Right, so there's my snowman. So I'll just put him down there. I'm going to just put some eyes on my snowman here. So there we go. Now you can use anything you want. I've got little black pearls, you don't have to have them. You can use whatever you fancy. Okay, my snowman wants to have a really colourful hat, so we're just going to give him lovely sprinkles. So you need to be doing this while your icing is drying. Okay. Because it dries very, very quickly, so you want to work pretty fast if you can. Okay, my snowman is actually going to have little Gingerbread Man buttons, maybe. How about that? Okay, and let's give him a mouth. Smiley snowman. Bit of a crooked smile, but anyway. And we'll give him a nose. I don't have any orange, but I have the star here, so I'm sure if I chip off a little bit, I could kind of create a little nose. Okay, there we go. Probably do a little matching scarf to his hat, so let's shut this down a little bit and get some more sprinkles and add those in. This is where you have to get creative and just go with what you fancy. There's no rules here. Okay. You can use just a little knife or spoon or whatever just to move these around if you want to. You don't have to use anything. You could just sprinkle sprinkles all over your snowman if you wanted to. Okay, so there is Mr. Snowman done. Okay, pop him down on his plate. Let's see, the next one that we're going to do is maybe our Christmas tree. So I'm going to use a little bit of some nice blue dust here, and this always gives me a nice, use a tiny little bit of it, it'll kind of, it's royal blue, but it actually, a small little bit, it'll give me kind of a duck egg, hopefully. I need a tiny bit. I like using the dusts, they're not as messy as the gels. They can give you a nice colour, so I'll add a little bit more to that. And they work in fondant as well, that colour fondant for you, or buttercream. So they're really versatile. One I'm using is rainbow dust, and I got it in Stuff for Cakes in Galway, so they supply online, and they've got a really good service if you're ever looking for cake supplies. Okay, so I've got kind of a bluey colour duck egg going on here. So I could use that for my tree, or I could add a little bit of green if I wanted to, just to show you how you can mix colours. It's the same principle as painting or art. You can mix all these colours up. I'm going to pop that onto a plate as well. If you find it's getting a little bit too dry, you can add a little bit more water, whatever you fancy. So let's do a Christmas tree. Obviously you can go a lot greener. Okay, so again, just pop it down onto your board and get a little knife, whatever you have. Yeah. I've got a little star here, you don't have to add a star, you can put whatever you want on it, more sprinkles. Okay, pop the star on top. Okay, and I have a little bit of white icing sugar, and I put it in a bag. Again, you don't need to do this, you can just add your sprinkles as you want, but I have it in a bag, and what I'm just going to do is a little bit of a zigzag effect, just kind of the idea of like lights or tinsel or whatever on your Christmas tree. Goes over and back. And I'll stick into my gloves now. And I have some hearts. So I'm kind of going away from the traditional Christmas colours, but you see how that works too. So you don't have to, if you don't have your reds and greens, that's okay. Use what you have. Our snowman, and let's do our Mr. Gingerbread Man next. So I have some little cute eyes here. Again, you use what you have. Obviously Smarties or any of that work really well on Gingerbread Man. Again, you can dip him in the icing if you fancy doing that, or you can just leave him plain like I'm going to do here. You could add a little pants to him if you wanted to. Maybe do that. Let's see. Add little shorts. It's like my piping bag, and just give him the Gingerbread Man shorts. Why not? Again, it doesn't have to be really fancy. This is where your tool comes in again, just to flood it. Now, you could colour that. I'm using the white because because I have it in my piping bag. Obviously a nice maybe red pair of short pants with the Gingerbread Man would look really cute. Go with whatever you want. Buttons on these pants. You could give them some little zigzaggy feet. Give him a big smile. And need some Gingerbread Man hair as well, probably. Let's get that. He definitely needs some hair. Okay. So there's our Gingerbread Man. Let's do our circle. I have a little bit of cream still left over. I'm actually going to add a little bit of water to it because it started to get thick. Okay, so you don't want to get them too thick. Now I've got a few little sprinkles in there as well. It's not going to make much difference. I'm going to get my circular cookie, which I think looks really nice. Such a simple idea, but just by cutting the middle out of it, it really adds to it. Okay, so again you're going to just get your little knife or whatever you have, smooth it around like that. Okay, scrape a little bit off from underneath. I'm going to get my white again. Now if you don't have this, totally fine. Obviously you just want to add some sprinkles on top or just leave them plain, whatever you want to do yourself. Okay, so I'm just going to go over and back. I have some of these really cute little guys here to add to it. Little sprinkles. And some snowflakes. Okay, so there's my little circular cookie. Put that down on our tray. Then I'm just going to get some more of my icing sugar that I have here. A little bit of pink to add here. Could have gone a little bit overboard. You've got to be careful with your pinks and your reds. That's okay because I have some extra icing that I want to add from my plate here because it's thicker. So I've made this quite runny, but I can add some of my other icing to it. It's going to give me the consistency that I need and also lighten the colour. My star, and I'm going to have a pink star, why not? Just dip it into the icing again. the same with my love heart. Okay, and I'm gonna get some more of these lovely sprinkles. They're gorgeous. And some small ones over here. A little star. And then we'll do our heart last. Obviously you don't have to ice these, you can just eat them as they are, but the icing does add a little something to them, I think. Put some little hearts on this one. Our little heart cookie. So that's it. Okay, so our cookies are ready, the ones that we popped in the freezer. So they are ready to just be stored in a freezer safe container. I like these glass ones, I find them great. So that's my kind of go-to. Obviously a freezer bag will work as well. So just try and stack them or layer them kind of side by side if you can. Pop a little bit of grease proof between them. You know, usually they don't stick, but just to be on the safe side, if you're not sure. Okay. And you can pop these out then out of your freezer whenever you want to cook them. You don't have to defrost them. Pop them onto a pre-lined baking tray and straight into the preheated oven at 180 for again 8 to 10 minutes depending on your oven. Pop a layer on top. You can add to this, there's some more room in it, so if you've got more, if you make more, you can add in on top. That's absolutely fine. So there are our cookies ready for the freezer. We have our cookie dough and the rolls also ready for the freezer. Chocolate chip cookie. Pop those into the freezer and you can have fresh cookies whenever you want. Okay, now for the fun part. We have our hot cocoa sticks out of the freezer, or the fridge even. So they're ready to come out of the molds, so wish me luck. Just loosen the top gently because the chocolate has come over the edge on mine. You might have been a bit neater. Pop your finger underneath and just push it up from underneath, okay? There you go. And even just leaving them out of the fridge for like a couple of minutes beforehand, I've no patience. So if you leave them for a few minutes, they'll actually just even come out even a little bit easier. So we're ready to go. All you need to do now is heat your milk up in a saucepan, get it good and warm, pop your cocoa stick into your cup or your glass, and then pour your milk over and stir. And you're gonna have maybe an hour of fun with this by the time you get to the bottom of that candy cane. Don't forget to take off the plastic on top when you're ready to eat it though. And enjoy your cookies. Hope you had fun. Happy Christmas everyone. Make sure to take lots of pictures, post them to your social media and tag Tipperary Libraries and the Artful Cakery. I'll put the links below. Thanks for watching. Happy Christmas everyone. Bye.